Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to our webinar, Key Findings of the IoT Survey 2019. Your hosts will be Klaus Holzhauser, Head of the Digital CX and IoT Practice of the Technology Group, and Arnold Vogt, Principal Consultant and Analyst IoT, also at Technology Group. My name is Wiebke Löscher. I'm a member of the Technology's Marketing Communications team. And at the beginning, I'd like to briefly explain the question function. On the right side of your screen, you find the field for questions. Just post your questions inside there, and at the end of the webinar, we're going to answer your questions. If we're running out of time, our host will answer to those questions by email, so nothing will get lost. This session is recorded, and after the webinar, we'll send you the presentation and the recording of the webinar. Here's a short overview of our agenda. So it's a very classical agenda. So user demographics and key findings and outlook are shared by our colleagues Arnold Vogt and Klaus Holzhauser. And right at the beginning, it's my dear colleague, Klaus Holzhauser.
Yes, thank you, Wiebke. Warm welcome from my side as well. I would like to start with a short introduction about the IoT survey itself, what we did, how it works, what the results in general, before I then hand over to Arnold, who will go in detail about the results with you. So let me start with a few key facts on the IoT survey. It's the first IoT survey which will be annual on IoT platforms and which is done among users and consultants who are working with IoT platforms. We had a sample of over 2,000 survey responses from more than 50 different countries. So the results offer an unpassed level of user feedback on 38 leading IoT solutions. So 38, that's the ones who made it into our survey. So there was a necessary that we got a certain number of answers per platform user feedback. So in total, it was minimum 30 answers per platform. So they will also serve the resources to understand better from users, the vendor feedbacks, to understand the needs of the market. That's the value we want to provide for you. In total, we had defined seven peer groups where we compare the platforms, and we did the evaluation by 25 KPIs in total. So we have the 6 groups. We have 6 groups for the KPIs. So that, for example, here sub KPIs as well below. So in total, I said before 24. And on the implementation process, the business value generated by the IoT platform, the competitiveness on the platform, what the evaluation on the innovation, how innovative the platform solution is, and of course also feedback concerning customer satisfaction, customer experience by implementing and usage of the platform. Here you can see an overview about which platforms made it. So as I said before, we had 38 platforms which were able to bring 30 respondents, 30 plus respondents at a minimum about the experience customers had with these platforms. Also from my side, some information and background on the user demographics. So we had different industries, and the largest industries is the IT industry, where coming the answers. So that's really service providers using the platforms. From a regional perspective, the largest regions of responses comes from Americas, so North and Latin together. And from user perspective, the departments where the answers are coming, the biggest one has position of IT manager. Concerning the company size, I'm really happy that we had nearly 12% of respondents from companies above 5,000 employees, that if you compare the share of large enterprises and total number of enterprises, that it's a very high percentage. So I'm very glad that we got this high number. The biggest group of companies are between 100 and 500, followed by the 500 to 1,000. That's also, of course, that's the biggest numbers of companies in the market, and also the usage of IoT platforms are not only limited to large enterprises. We see it as well, as you can see, in the mid-market. So now I'm happy to hand over to Arnold, who gave you the key insights on the results of the survey.
Excellent. Many thanks, Klaus, and also welcome from my side. Yes, let's spend the next 20 minutes regarding some of the key insights we collected through the IoT survey. And it was really very interesting for me to really dig deeper into all the data across the 24 KPIs and across the 38 platforms we evaluated. It was really interesting to see the overall findings we captured out of this survey. And I would say let's jump directly into it. You see already on the chart that I put together the major KPIs, and I related to the major KPIs which Klaus already mentioned, like business value, and key question I want to answer over the coming minutes. So regarding business value, we want to look into what is the approach from users to extract as much as possible business value out of IoT platforms. And we see in general two different directions how users approach an IoT platform, how to identify the right IoT platform for their specific use cases. And the second one is regarding implementation. So what makes an implementation really successful? This is the second question we want to address here. And then we look into competitiveness. We look into the question, okay, big brands, is this really important? Is it helpful? Especially it is helpful regarding awareness, but is it also helpful when we talk about the win rate of an IoT platform? So we look also in the underlying KPIs, for example, behind competitiveness. We have considered for purchase, and we have also the competitive win rate as related KPIs behind these major KPI of competitiveness. We talk a little bit about this. Then we look into innovation also. So what makes an IoT platform currently innovative? What the users are looking for, and what are the vendors currently doing? And so this will be another topic we will look into. Then customer satisfaction. So simple question, what makes the user really happy? Well, the question is simple, but the answer is a little more complex because when we talk about the users, Klaus mentioned this already, we are talking about several different users, right? So we are talking about developers, we're talking about administrators, even business users and project managers around IoT platforms. So this is a broad set of different users. And also behind the KPI of customer satisfaction, we have several underlying KPIs related to customer satisfaction. So for example, the pricing model, we are looking into the recommendation rate, also the product satisfaction, for example, is relevant and important. We look also into the vendor support. Interesting is also security and the partner ecosystem. So you see we have several KPIs related to customer satisfaction, and the question is easy, but when you will see later that the answer is a little more complicated to understand what clients are really valuing in this perspective. And then finally, we will look into customer experience KPI. We have also here several underlying KPIs associated to it. And we try to answer the question, okay, is there really a perfect IoT platform out there? And from a customer perspective, this really means, okay, is there an IoT platform out there with a very high performance, which is very flexible and which is really very easy to use? So we will see this in the next minutes. So let's jump directly into it, and we look first into business value. When we talk about business value, we included here first a graph regarding the top 10 providers we identified regarding business value. So you see the overall KPI here included regarding business value, but also the two underlying KPIs behind business value, which are effectiveness and for also efficiency. You see we have big brands like IBM and Microsoft included here on a top level. These IoT platforms are very effective for users, as it seems, right? Because the feedback is really okay. They have very broad capabilities regarding device management, regarding IoT data management and analytics. So these are really effective IoT platforms for many users. And the other point is really the efficiency. So it is a little more the price aspect, how simple and fast they can be integrated. Is it affordable? So this is more the efficiency part. And it's interesting to see that beside the big logos, we also see some smaller vendors in this top 10 list regarding the KPI of business value. So you see, for example, included here Device Insight, you see Eurotech, you see also Axiros. And what's interesting when you look at these kind of IoT platforms, they are not so strong regarding effectiveness, but they are very strong in efficiency. And these are rather smaller players in the context of IoT platforms, but these are very specialized players, right? So for example, Eurotech and Axiros, they have a core strengths regarding device management. So they are really good in this, but they are not so strong in other aspects of IoT platforms. This makes them not so strong regarding the effectiveness KPI. So they are not so strong in data management, not so strong in analytics, but what they do regarding device management, they are really, really good. They are very efficient. And that's the reason why you also see smaller logos here on the top 10 list of IoT platforms regarding business value. So this was an interesting finding just when you look at the top 10 list of IoT platforms we identified regarding the KPI of business value. When we go to the next chart, I want to give you some, let's say, a little broader insights, what we see, how users are really addressing this. So users really have a big interest to generate a strong business value and to maximize the business value out of an IoT platform they use. And we see basically really two different approaches how users are doing this. On one side, we see often that users are coming with, let's say, very basic IoT use cases like monitoring, like tracking, and they are looking for more standardized IoT platforms, right? Because these more standardized IoT platforms, they are very sufficient for them, right? For these basic IoT use cases. So they are looking for, let's say, basic kind of IoT platforms, often associated with, let's say, rapid application deployment, or also with a low-code platform perspective, because this makes a standardized IoT platform for very basic IoT use cases very efficient, right? When you have a low-code platform, it's really easy for the user because it's not necessary to involve a developer. So this is really one approach we see when users are coming with very basic use cases. They are looking for very standardized IoT platforms, and these standardized IoT platforms coming with a low-code business model, they bring really a lot of business value to the user. But we see also another group of users, and they are looking more into, let's say, very complex IoT use cases. They are often related to analytics, to machine learning, but also in the context of predictive maintenance, for example. So this is another approach, right? And these kind of customers, they fully understand that a standardized IoT platform is not the right solution for them. So they are really looking for highly customizable solutions or IoT platforms, which give them a lot of flexibility to really build a solution which is perfect to their needs and for their complex and dedicated use case which they want to fulfill. So in these cases, low-code platforms are not generating a lot of business value for this approach. So they are really looking more into, let's say, more complex IoT platforms, and they come often because otherwise they are not efficient. They are sold often together with system integration capabilities by the provider itself, provided, or they are coming from the ecosystem around the vendor of the IoT platform. So really two different approaches we see how users try to maximize the business value around an IoT platform, and it really depends on different kind of use cases they have. So when we go on to the next chart, this is still a little bit a link to the previous chart regarding business value. So when we talk about implementation, what makes the implementation of an IoT platform successful? And this is linked to the efficiency KPI also, which we discussed already under the business value KPI. So we see two different approaches which are really helpful and efficient regarding implementation of an IoT platform. And one is really again a low-code platform or a rapid application development platform, because they are easy to implement, right? You do not need a developer to create dashboards, so you really can do it. Also a business user can do it in a drag and drop mode. So the implementation and also the usage of these kind of IoT platforms is very efficient, and the implementation can be done really very fast. Also the onboarding of new devices. So this is one approach we see how the implementation can be done successful. And the other one is again related more to, let's say, the complex IoT use cases, and this is more related again to the system integration capabilities. So when you do not have standardized IoT, or let's say basic IoT use cases which are linked to more standardized IoT platforms, and you really need a specific IoT platform with deep capabilities, for, of course, even more complex, then you need definitely also a system integration capabilities for this to be successful with the implementation. And what I mentioned earlier is there are two possibilities, right? That the IoT platform vendor have own capabilities, or they have a strong partner ecosystem to deliver the system integration. And what we saw in the past, and this was also interesting to see, that we see on one side IoT platforms, they have already a strong ecosystem of partners, for example, Microsoft, right? But we see also other IoT platforms that tried to establish a strong partner ecosystem around their IoT platform directly from scratch. And they realized that this was not successful because the many big system integrators, they're really very agnostic in using different IoT platforms. And by the way, they often have also their own IoT platform building blocks or capabilities. So this was not really successful for these kind of IoT platform vendors to build up a strong partner ecosystem. So what we see currently much more is really that these IoT platforms build up own system integration capabilities around their platform to really be an efficient IoT platform and to deliver successful implementation projects around these platforms. So when we then move on to the next chart. So let's talk a little bit about competitiveness. Competitiveness have two underlying KPIs, so considered for purchase is one which is related a little bit to awareness, right? How strong is your awareness in the market overall, that you have a good IoT platform. The other one is more related to how successful you are to really win with your IoT platform in the market. So it's more related to the win rate. So we included here again all three aspects. The overlaying aspect is competitiveness, and Microsoft and also IBM are also leading in this perspective regarding the feedback we got from the users. And you see also other big logos here on these top 5 lists. So does brand matter? Yes, brand, of course, is a matter, is important. What's interesting maybe here on this top 5 list, when you look at Google, for example, they are really considered for purchase in many cases, right? But the win rate is rather low, so it's a little bit diffuse for users for which kind of use cases they really can use Google and for which not. And so yes, Google is, everybody knows Google and everybody is aware of that they have also IoT capabilities. But when users then look a little bit deeper to understand, is this the right IoT platform for me? Then often the answer is maybe it's not the right IoT platform for their specific use case. So when we go on to the next chart regarding competitiveness, what I mentioned already on the earlier chart, and this was the question which we related to competitiveness. Does size matter regarding brand awareness? Yes, of course, it plays a role. That's definitely the case. But awareness and the considered for purchase KPI is only one element of competitiveness. And I think the other element is even more important. And what we see still out in the market there's still a lot of confusion for user companies. The market is still very complex, and it's still not very clear for many users which kind of capabilities they find behind a specific IoT platform. Often we see that big vendors say, we can do everything for you. So this is complicated for the users to understand, okay, which kind of capabilities you are really good, and maybe what is really more as an add-on. What we see, smaller players, and I mentioned some of them already earlier, they're often much more clear and simple and consistent with their message out in the market. And they say, okay, we are strong in a specific niche around IoT platforms, but we are not so strong in other. And you can also work together. You can pick and choose different components from different vendors. This should be possible also for many IoT platforms. And this is also interesting for many users, right? To use different components from different IoT platforms. together via open APIs. So I think we will see this also more and more in the future. But what I want to comment here on is we really need more clarity in the market. Really, user need more help to understand what's behind an IoT platform. A clear and simple and a consistent message is really helpful. We still see that several of the big IoT platform vendors, they're still moving their strategic direction a little bit, right? So they started in one dimension and then they are moving a little bit to other areas of the market. So we see still a lot of movements, and we still miss a little bit clarity, but especially this clarity would be helpful for the users to identify the right IoT platforms for their specific use cases they have. So when we go after competitiveness and we look more into innovation, we looked into what the top IoT platforms. So when I mean the top IoT platforms, I really mean the IoT platforms where the users says from their perspective, these are the most innovative ones. We analyzed what they are focusing on currently and what makes them innovative. And it's no surprise that several of them are really focusing on different kind of analytics capabilities around machine learning, artificial intelligence. So this is not a surprise as a finding that many of the IoT platform vendors are building up more and more capabilities in this space, and users are valuing this. So this is really a very interesting and important capabilities when you think about use cases like, as already mentioned, predictive maintenance. Behind the scenes, we see also going on that many of the IoT platform vendors are working on modularization and also on simplification of their current IoT platforms. So what I mentioned already, that we will see more and more clear defined modules of an overall IoT platform with open APIs, so that users are really able to use one or the other module, or maybe in combination together. So we will see this more and more, that from a monolithic perspective, we are going more to a microservice level, and we see more and more modules which a user can pick and choose. And still, IoT platforms are complex, and we see also that the vendors invest still a lot to simplify their IoT platforms for all kind of use cases which the users want to realize. We see also some interest or focus, let's say, regarding digital twin, also around the blockchain. It's a little more hype what we see so far, so not so strongly really within the portfolio itself. They talk a lot about these hype topics, but we do not see so many real capabilities already within their portfolio. But we will see for sure more in the future. But what is currently really a very important topic is everything regarding IoT Edge. So this is a very important topic for many users and also for many vendors. And what we expect in the near future is really that beside IoT Edge, we started with IoT often in the cloud, and now we talk about IoT at the edge, and I think we will see the same evolution then in the cloud discussion also. And the next model will be for sure that we talk about hybrid solutions in an IoT context, so edge and cloud together. So this will be for sure also an interesting topic in the near future. When we then go on from innovation to customer satisfaction, here a list of the top 10 providers. We have not included all the underlying KPIs because there are too many and it's too confusing. So it's just that you have an overview and see some of the the vendors. They got really good rankings in this KPI. Not only big vendors included, you see also several of the smaller players are here included. So we have a quite good mix of different IoT platforms from big and also from small vendors. When we move on to the next chart, so let's talk a little bit what makes the user really happy regarding customer satisfaction. And I mentioned already we have several underlying KPIs associated to this major KPI of customer satisfaction. And one really important one is the recommendation rate. And I really would say the recommendation rate is really a key indicator for the overall customer satisfaction. And so we really see this this correlation through the survey we have done. And when I then look a little bit deeper what is behind the recommendation rate, we see a correlation of two other KPIs, and these are product satisfaction and also the vendor support. And so these are two very important KPIs for users of IoT platforms when it comes to the recommendation rate. So when you have an IoT platform with a high product satisfaction, with good vendor support, so users are willing to recommend the IoT platform also to their peers. But this is just the easy part of the story, and this is maybe also not so surprising, right, to see these KPIs behind recommendation rate and also important for the overall customer satisfaction. What was even more interesting for me when you dig a little bit deeper, and because we identified also that the pricing model is also very relevant. So we identified some IoT platforms with a very high product satisfaction level, with a very good vendor support, but with a very low recommendation rate. And this was a little bit surprising. And when we looked into more correlations, we saw that when users are really unhappy with the pricing model. So when the pricing model, so the satisfaction with the pricing model is falling below a certain threshold, then users are not willing to recommend an IoT platform, even when they are happy with the product and happy with the vendor support. But when it's too expensive, they are not willing to recommend this. So this was one finding. And another finding was also that we saw sometimes a very high recommendation rate for an IoT platform, but linked to a very low product satisfaction level. And this was also interesting to see. And we tried to understand what's the reason behind this. And in these cases, we realized that the security played a major role in the overall customer satisfaction. So we really saw that some of the IoT platforms have very strong security capabilities, and there are for sure several very sensitive IoT use cases where security is really significant for the user, right? And in these aspects, and for these kind of use cases, so users are really willing to recommend an IoT platform when they have a high security level, even when they are not completely satisfied with the product. So this was also an interesting finding from my side regarding the customer satisfaction. As I mentioned, it's an easy question, what makes the user happy? But when you look at the underlying KPIs, it was really a little more complicated to understand what is going on there. But overall, this perfectly makes sense for me when we see now the final findings. Then I would say we go on to the last major KPI regarding customer experience. So we have 3 KPIs associated to this customer experience KPI, which is performance, which is flexibility and ease of use. And we really looked into this and tried to identify, okay, is there really one or the other IoT platform really with outstanding performance, with great flexibility, with a high usability? And there's one or the other, but there are not many with very high marks in all of three of these aspects, right? So they are really hard to find. And normally what we see is really that IoT platforms with a high score in flexibility and or maybe also in ease of use, they are often combined with more negative ratings regarding performance. So this is one thing we see, but we see also the other way around, right? So when an IoT platform has a really good scoring in performance, we also see it the other way around, that the combined KPI regarding flexibility or ease of use is often not so strong from a user perspective. So what I want to mention here in this context is really, yeah, sometimes it's necessary to make a trade-off between performance, flexibility, and ease of use. You cannot have everything. It can also be an approach for a user when they have different use cases with different requirements, that it's maybe necessary to use different IoT platforms. So there is no perfect solution out there for all kind of use cases and for everything. So the market is still complex, and that's the major findings from this year. What we found, we have done an additional report also regarding all the major findings. We have done an executive summary, which you can download directly on the IoT Survey webpage. There is also an additional report available, not free of charge, as I know, but there's a deep dive in all of these KPIs to give you an overall understanding of what is really important in the context of IoT platforms, which kind of KPIs, and you find also all the information regarding all the IoT platforms we have evaluated in this report. So it's really a big, was really a big project, and many interesting insights we gained out of this analysis. So with this, I think I hand over back to Klaus.
Yeah, thank you very much, Arnold. And yeah, let me make a short notice and an outlook on the upcoming survey. So after the IoT survey is before the IoT survey. So the last documents will be published in April, so for internal use for the companies. So we've finished in April the 2019 IoT survey, and for us it's the new edition, the 2020 edition already started, more or less, and we will invite quite soon the providers, the platform providers, for the next IoT survey. So we start the field phase in May. That's the 2020 survey begins. Then also we will do again a webinar to introduce what's changing, if we have adoption of the KPI or segments or whatever. So we have in total we have a field phase from May until August. We will do a midpoint where we also give feedback to the providers where we stand, how it goes, if we have enough responses from everybody. And then we close the field phase in August, and then we start our evaluation. That will take a while, and again next year in February it's a release date for the 2020 IoT survey. And yeah, if you are dialed in as a provider, I already want to invite you to participate, to support our IoT survey, communicate with your customers, with your user community, that they help us to give us response, that even bigger than this year and make it again a success for everybody. So Arnold already mentioned the website on the IoTsurvey.com. You can see, and as he said, you will find a management summary, an executive summary of the survey, and profiles of the different featured platforms as well. So that's so far from my side. Thank you to everybody. And I hand over to my colleague, Wiebke.
Hello, thank you, Klaus. So now it's time for questions and, of course, answers. So I just offer you the option that you can write in your questions in the question panel on the right side. And we got one question already that is more about the further usage of data, if we offer support around that.
Sorry, can you repeat it again, Wiebke?
So, are there options, offerings around how the further usage of the data can be managed? Are there any ideas, like webinars, something like that? Do we offer that?
Of course, what we support our user customers, the all interested customers. We are running workshops with them about, also specifying the results on their individual situation, so helping them to identify the right IoT platform for their use cases. That's an offering from our side, of course.
So there are no fresh questions right now, but of course we're offering the contact details with the webinar recording and the slides. So don't hesitate to get in contact with us, our experts, or the Marcom team whenever you've got questions around the current IoT survey or the upcoming one, or like the usage of data, whatever. So we're open, we're happy to receive your questions. And if there are no new questions, I'd like to thank you for your time, for participation, and wish you a very nice day.
Also from my side, again, thank you very much for your participation in our webinar. And looking forward to collaborate with all of you in the next IoT survey.
Thanks, goodbye.